Preparing for a Laravel interview? We break down the top Laravel interview questions with clear and concise answers to help you in the interview. In the previous video, we discussed general Laravel concepts, directory structure, and important files. In this video, we are discussing the interview questions about Laravel controllers. This is part 1 of the questions about controllers. We keep it short and to the point, no lengthy explanations. If you want in-depth Laravel tutorials, check out our Laravel framework series. Let's get started. What is a controller in Laravel? A controller in Laravel is a PHP class that handles incoming requests, processes business logic, and returns responses. This response could be a rendered view for web applications or a JSON response for APIs. Controllers act like traffic coordinators. They direct each request to the correct destination and ensure a proper response is returned. Controllers are stored in the directory app/http/controllers. Main responsibilities of a controller: receive input, handle incoming HTTP requests such as GET, POST, PUT, or DELETE, capture user input and request data, process data, call services, use models, or apply custom business logic. Return response. This can be a view, a JSON object, a redirect, or any other type of response. Now let's look at the different types of controllers in Laravel. Basic controller. This is a plain class with multiple methods for different actions. Use command, PHP Artisan, make controller, then the controller name. Here we are creating a controller named customer controller. This command will create a file named customer controller inside the directory app, HTTP, controllers. So this is our basic controller. We still have to define the action methods here. Resource controller. This includes predefined methods mapped to RESTful routes. Use command, PHP Artisan, make controller, then the controller name, and then -- resource. Here we are creating controller named user controller. Let's check the user controller file. Here we can see that some action methods are already created. Created functions are index, create, store, show, edit, update, and destroy. Now, if we define the routes using the route resource method, then it automatically defines the relevant routes. The index method is usually used to list of users, uses the HTTP method get. The endpoint is /users, and by default, the route name will be users.index. The create method is used to show user creation form. HTTP method is get. Endpoint /users/create, and route name users. Create. Store is used to get user creation data form, the user form, and create the user. HTTP method post. Endpoint /users, and route name users.store. Show method accepts an ID and is used for showing specific user information. HTTP method get. Endpoint /user/ the user identifier as parameter. Route name users to show. Edit is for showing the edit form. HTTP method get. Endpoint users/ user identifier as parameter /edit. Route name is users.edit. Update method is for receiving the data submitted by edit form. Uses HTTP method put or patch. Endpoint users/ user identifier. Route name users.update. And finally, the destroy method is for deleting a specific resource. Uses HTTP method delete. Endpoint is users/user ID, and route name users.destroy. All these are automatically defined if we use the resource method from route to define the user's route. API resource controller. Used for API endpoints. Use artisan command, PHP Artisan, make controller, then controller name, then -- API. Here we are creating an API controller named post controller. This create a file named post controller inside the app, HTTP, controllers directory. But then the web controllers and API controllers are mixed together. We should separate these two types of controllers and keep the API controllers in a separate namespace. Create a directory API inside the controllers directory. Then move the post controller to the API directory. Then, obviously, we have to change the namespace of the post controller. So change it to app, HTTP, controllers, API. Here we need to change the import of the class controller, as the path has changed. Later, when we create API controller, we can specify the API path. Use Artisan command, PHP Artisan, make controller API / controller name, then -- API. The controller will be created in the API directory. The namespace and other paths are set correctly. Check the API controller. You will see some API action methods already created. You will find the methods: index, store, show, update, and destroy. Here is what each method is intended to be used for. Define the route using route API resource method. Endpoint is categories, and we're using the category controller. Method name, index. This would return all the categories, probably a paginated list of categories. HTTP method, get. API endpoint, API / categories. And route name is categories.index. Method, store. This action is used to create a new category. HTTP method, post. API endpoint, API / categories. And route name is categories.store. Method name, show, returns data of a specific category. HTTP method, get. API endpoint, API / categories / ID. And route name is categories.show. Method name, update, used to update an existing category. HTTP method, put or patch. API endpoint, API / categories / ID. And the route name is categories.update. Method name, destroy, deletes an existing category. HTTP method, delete. API endpoint, API / categories / ID. And route name is categories.destroy. We have created the controllers. Now let's define the routes. Open the file web.php from the routes directory. For the customer controller, we want to define route with get method and endpoint customer, where you can use customers. Pass the endpoint as the first parameter and then the array of controller class name and action method name as the second parameter. We can also give this route a custom name if we want to. It is better to give it a name, as that can be used in other parts of the code, and the endpoint or code might change. But if we keep the same route name, we can use it without any worry. Now let's define the resource route for the user controller. Use the method resource from route. Pass the endpoint users. Then pass the controller class. No need to mention any action method, as the methods are predefined. The routes created by the resource method have predefined names, as we have already seen, but we can define a custom name if we want to, using the names method. We can use the except or only methods if needed. This way, we can have the predefined configuration created by the resource from route, but we also have full control over the route configuration, and we can change any route configuration if we want to. Here, for example, we're keeping all resource endpoints except the create, store, and destroy. Now, let's add routes for the API. Open file api.php from the routes directory. If the api.php file is not present, then run php artisan install API. For the posts, add a get method route for the endpoint posts. Then set the controller and action method. Optionally, we can define a custom route name using the name function. Here we have set the name post.index. Similarly, we can define the route for getting a single post with endpoint post / ID and the post method for the store method. Endpoint is posts. Now let's set up resource endpoints for the API. Use the method API resource for that. Here we are setting an API resource for the category controller. We can use only or except to allow or ignore certain endpoints or methods. Here we're allowing only the index and show methods, just as an example. We can also set the custom route names by passing an array to the names method. It is only needed if we want to use any custom route name. There are two special types of controllers in Laravel: invocable controller and singleton controller. Let's discuss the questions about these special types of controllers in the next video.